All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to explore this piece of wisdom that's, thousands of years old, but it feels like it could have been written for the world we live in right now. It's a prayer that kind of challenges everything we think we want.
So let me ask you something straight up. If you could ask for just one thing to define your entire life, what would it be? For a lot of us, I'm guessing the answer probably involves success, financial security, maybe even being really wealthy. And hey, it's totally natural to want a comfortable life, right?
But what if the actual wisest path was something completely different? We're going to look at this ancient prayer that just flips our modern ambitions on their head and offers a really radical and honestly a surprisingly insightful alternative.
So let's get into our source material, which is from the Book of Proverbs, chapter 30. This is where we meet a man named Agur. He made two very specific, lifelong requests to God, and they are, believe me, incredibly profound.
You know, what's so interesting is who Agur claimed to be. He didn't see himself as some great sage or spiritual giant, not at all. In his own words, he basically said he lacked any special wisdom or knowledge. And it's that humility, that realness, that makes his prayers so powerful and so accessible to all of us.
So this is how he starts. It's a plea for his entire lifetime. He's not asking for some temporary fix. He's asking for two foundational pillars to build his whole life on. So what were they?
Well, his first request, it wasn't for success or for power. It was for truth. He prayed for a life of integrity, one that was completely free from falsehoods and lies.
So why was this so crucial for him? Well, he recognized that the world is just saturated with deceit, and he knew that falsehood is something God detests. For Agur, living truthfully wasn't just good moral practice. It was way deeper. It was a fundamental act of faithfulness. It was about aligning his own life with the very character of God. Now, Agur's second request builds on this foundation of truth, and honestly, this one is maybe even more challenging for us today. He prayed for balance, for a life of simple contentment. See, Agur understood this deep human truth that both extreme wealth and extreme poverty carry massive spiritual dangers. He worried that having too much would lead to arrogance and make him forget God, but having too little could lead to desperation, causing him to steal and dishonor God's name. He wanted to avoid both of those traps. And here we have it, the absolute core of his second request. This is one of the most radical lines in all of Scripture. He doesn't say, give me a solid retirement plan, or give me enough to feel secure. Just give me only my daily bread. So, what does this idea of daily bread really even mean? It's about so much more than just food. It's a profound spiritual posture, a mindset of daily trust and dependence. And this concept has deep, deep roots. I mean, think about the story of manna in the wilderness. God provided food every single day, but there was a rule: only gather what you need for today. And when people got anxious and tried to hoard for tomorrow, what happened? The extra food would rot. The lesson was literally built into the provision itself. You had to trust that more would be there tomorrow. The theologian Dallas Willard really nails this for our modern world. He says the problem isn't having things. The problem is when we place our sense of security in those things instead of in God. It all comes down to where our ultimate trust really lies.
And that is exactly what Agur was praying for. He was making a conscious choice. He was pretty much declaring that his security, his identity, it was all going to come from his relationship with God, not from the size of his bank account.
Now, this all sounds really wise and noble, but let's be real for a second. How does a prayer like this land in our culture? A culture that is constantly screaming at us to want more, achieve more, and accumulate more. Let's just pause on this one part of the prayer for a moment. Make me not rich. Wow, that is probably the single most countercultural phrase in his entire request. It literally goes against everything we're taught to strive for. So the question for us is, and it's a challenging one, could we, with total sincerity, look at our lives, our ambitions, our careers, our financial goals, and actually pray this prayer? It requires a pretty radical shift in how we see the world. And ultimately, this all leads to the most important takeaway. Agur's prayer forces us to completely redefine what it even means to live a rich and fulfilled life. Because at the end of the day, the prayer isn't really about being poor or being rich. It's about being free.
free from the anxiety that comes with poverty, and free from the arrogance that comes with wealth, so that you can find your ultimate satisfaction and joy in God Himself, no matter what your circumstances look like.
This right here is the ultimate goal. The prophet Habakkuk writes about this same kind of spiritual wealth. He says that even if everything is stripped away, no business, no assets, no food, his source of joy is still untouched, because his joy is found in God. Now that is true spiritual wealth.
So we'll leave you with this question to chew on. What if we've been measuring wealth all wrong? What if true, lasting wealth has absolutely nothing to do with what's in our possession and everything to do with who has possession of our trust?